Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy on a chilly Wednesday morning, a little nippy out there this morning. Joining me this morning is Hartwell. Morning, Hartwell.
Good morning, Kris. Good morning, people out there.
So this morning we are discussing the Venus sequence, and we're going to dive a little deeper and talk about the core wound. So what we can do is start off by having you explain to us what the Venus sequence actually is, because it's not something that you normally speak about like in an initial reading. So if people want to go deeper, it's a question that they are ready to ask once they've had an initial reading. So can you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah, the Venus sequence, Kris, is encoded within your human design as a sequence that gets you down to the core of your ability to love and be loved and to be connected to God. Okay, so it isn't, this is sort of something that riffs on. This is coming out of Richard Rudd's work, like the gene keys.
Right.
And of course, it uses the calculation created and brought to us through the human design system. So this really is a way of understanding, how do I defend against love? How do I, what mechanisms are in place that get between me and the expression of love and the sense of connection to all that is.
Right. How interesting. It just never amazes me how many levels and layers there are to human design. Every time you think you've got an overview, but there's another layer and you can go deeper and investigate another piece. So this is quite interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about the core wound and what that is and how it's represented?
Yeah, the Venus sequence, in Richard Rudd's work, he talks about the genius. He talks about the our journey to love, the love sequence, which we're talking about today, and he talks about the prosperity sequence, and they have overlapping sectors to them. But the Venus sequence itself, it is found by looking at the Mars and the Venus position on both the design side of your chart and the personality side of your chart. That is the body and the mind, the red and the black. And it consists of 4 points, starting with the personality Venus, we have the trigger point. And then we have the defense against love with the personality Mars. And then we have the love point with the Venus position on the design side. And we have the core wound, which is Mars on the design side. Now, the core wound is an interesting concept, and this, in a sense, resonates to me with some of what astrology says in the principle of Chiron. It's a place in us that is deeply, deeply unconscious, but is also the place of our deepest wounding. So think of the play on words between the word wind and wound. So if something is wound, if you wind something up, it's wound.
Yeah.
So the core wound is, if you think of like a ball of twine being wound up, the core wound is where we're deeply wound, deeply wounded. And so the Venus sequence and the lines, so that it's not just the gates themselves that are important, but it's the lines as well. As we unwind ourselves, we become able to access higher and higher vibratory frequencies in our own makeup.
So would you say that the Venus sequence, or the core wound, actually, that's what we came into this life to help us overcome, or to learn lessons in enlightenment? Like, that's the piece that we have to open up?
I would say that there would be value to putting some attention there, for sure, because it's like I mean, some of the keys in our profile represent our genius that we're giving to our world, and the incarnation across is about our purpose. But the core wound is something deeply personal. It's something, it's something very deeply personal. And if you know the the gift and the acidic frequency of your own core wound, I think it becomes a very powerful thing to contemplate.
So how do we use the information that we get from the Venus sequence in the core wound? Like, how do we apply that to our life?
Yes, good question. And I'm always trying to ask those questions. It's like being an intuitive like I am and a psychic like I am and being interested in esoteric principles. Sometimes these things feel, are they useful or they're airy fairy stuff? And it's important that we be able to make a distinction and develop our minds so that we can do that. But from my perspective, there's two effective ways. There's two ways in which this information can be effective for us. One, we can look at the energy in and of itself. Okay. So we look at the gate. If you know the symbol for masculinity, that's the Mars symbol in human design. And in Gandhi's chart, for instance, this is gate 47. So, and what is the line number there, Kris? I can't quite see it.
I have to look at the other chart here, just a sec. 4, yes.
Right.
Here.
So there's two things we can look at. One is we can look at that gate itself. That is the gate of realization. And so it is about deeply understanding the principles of life. And this is where the core wound is. And the line describes how that is going to play out. So maybe I'll use myself as an example just because I don't have my spectrum of consciousness sheet on me. My core wound is the 12, which is at the lowest level, it's vanity. Okay. And so I can look at the gift level, which is discrimination, or the acidic level, which is purity. And I can begin to contemplate, because when I hear the word purity, something activates in me. And it activates something in me because it is linked to my core genetics, to my, the core aspect of me. So in contemplating discrimination and purity, this becomes a meditative process which helps unfold our consciousness to higher levels. Now the level or the mechanism, you could look at the lines as energetic themes that will help you unlock something. So we can think of the Venus sequence as a series of combinations and locks. And if you understand them, you can begin to use them and unlock yourself so that you begin to unwind. So, for instance, the defense mechanism of line 1 is to hide. All right? And the defense mechanism of the 2 is to deny.
Right. So is that for each, is that for each one of the planets? So there's a different line number after each gate that is associated with that. So for each gate or gene key, that is the specific line or response? Or whichever one you have the most of in your chart?
Very good question, Kris. So every planetary placement is in a gate and is in a line. So looking at Gandhi's chart, he has his sun in gate 18, line 6. So that expresses differently than he had it if he had it in gate 18, line 1, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5. Okay.
Right.
And so it subtly shifts things.
Mm-hmm.
Now that has implications for our overall chart, but right now we're looking at the Venus sequence, or we'll be overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at the 4 gates relating, the 4 lines relating to the Mars Venus on both sides, then we see, okay, these are the things that we can pay attention to release ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
because the Venus sequence has to do with our ability to give and receive love and the patterns of how we behave in relationships. So
Right.
these 4 line numbers related to those 4 placements are going to give us deep insight about how we defend ourselves against love in life.
Do we defend ourselves against love? That seems like a strange thing to say, because most of us are like wanting love. We want love to come to us. So when I hear defend, it's like, oh no, it's like keep away.
Well,
Think
we talk
better.
about, yeah, no, we talk about defense mechanisms, right, which
Oh,
have been built up over time from painful experiences in our past.
okay.
One person might develop a defense mechanism where they're always deflecting, which would be
Mm-hmm.
the 3:
Right.
deflecting, evading, manipulating.
Right.
Because there's so much shame in the 3rd line.
Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of behaviors does shame bring about? What kind of behaviors does denial bring about? We can
Right.
learn to recognize these in ourselves and use the release mechanism built into them as well. So, for somebody who has strong 3 energy,
Mm-hmm.
they can learn to laugh at themselves, recognize their evasive patterns, and instead laugh to release the shame that drives them to evade things.
Right. Yeah. It's all about awareness, whatever we do in life, right? It's about becoming aware of how you're interacting with life, right?
It
Yeah.
always comes back to awareness. Absolutely, Kris.
So,
Um,
go ahead.
no, please. Yeah. What's your question? Do you have one?
Well, I was just gonna say, where do we go from here? Like, where do we go from now? We've dove into the Venus sequence and the core wound, and we've talked about gene keys a little bit, and we've touched on all these different subjects. So, where would you like to see this go next with these little talks?
Well, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
If any of our readers are regular watchers,
Yeah.
if any of our regular viewers have any ideas, that could be useful. I
Well, yeah,
mean,
that's a good idea.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
You always have good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
We've touched down on a lot of things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if we were to open them up in depth, of course, that would be like a course, which I plan for the new year.
Right.
Different courses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I was thinking about that a little, Kris, this morning. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I was
Um,
just kind of going to open it up to the viewers if that was okay with you, and thought that maybe if there was one small aspect that they'd like to know about their chart, that we could have a question answer one on our next series, and people could just ask things about their chart. Like we would give everybody a chance to just ask one small thing. So, for
mhm.
example, you want to know what this line means, or you want to know what this gene key means, or things like that. So they can start to get an understanding about their own stuff. Um, and also, I just wanted to let people know that you can also like book appointments by Zoom, and they can be recorded. And you don't have to be here at Clarity to actually have a reading. Hartwell does everything um, distance as well. So these are things that can be done, but we look forward to having you guys respond and give us some questions and feedback on the next session. So dig out your charts. If you don't have a chart, you're welcome to book a reading before next Wednesday and talk to Hartwell. So with that, unless you have anything else, Hartwell, I think we'll wrap today up.
Um, yes. Um, people always want to know about their own charts, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want to have it land for ourselves. So this is potentially a really fun way for you to um, enter into an exploration of your own chart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing is if you haven't seen me specifically, you can get free charts online. And that'll be a teaser for you. For instance, oh my God, I see my chart. I got it for free, but I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
So that could be, you can, in a sense, you don't have to go through me to get your free chart because you can do that on jovianarchive.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it just raises a whole bunch of questions because I'm looking at all these lines and colors and I don't know what they mean, and then it starts a whole exploration, right? So yeah,
Yes.
so next week, guys, check out your charts and then sign on at 9 a.m. next Wednesday, and we'll try and answer a few of your questions that you have. And we look forward to hearing from you and having that interaction. So until next week, God bless. We love you. Have a great day.